a little bit shy of our 5-year mark, and we are also simulcasted on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. You sure have all of it. And we're also being shared on HSMAI Asia Pacific region and HSMAI European. And we also send out a rebroadcast to both of those at a little bit more convenient time zone for them every Monday and Tuesday. Just following this particular show, we monitor engagement and we answer questions and so forth from the show as well, as it's being broadcasted to them. So with that in mind, thank you so much for joining us today. If you're listening to us on a recording or watching us in a recording, you're always welcome to go over and send us questions from the content and the topics that we bring up each week, and we will be happy to reply to. And if you would like to actually join us live, you can do so by joining us at bit.ly/HDM show 204. And then click when registering there. When you join our audience here on the platform that we use called Webinar Jam, which is what broadcasts us out to everyone, you can raise your hand and we can actually join you as a talking head if you like. I hopefully will not be your only host today, given the fact that there is some great content that Mr. Robert Cole from Rock Cheetah has given us. Each week, Mr. Cole goes over and gives us a curated list of what's new and relevant in the world of hospitality from a news perspective. And as we've done many times in weeks and weeks, we've gone through and made sure that we make it relevant to you. We take the information and see what the actual impact of some of these things are actually going to happen to our industry. So it's not just reciting the news, it's interpreting the news and giving you the most qualified insights as to what can happen. As you know, with all the hosts that we have on the show and the people that do join us on the show, that we have a variety of opinions as to the interpretation of some of these things and also our insights as to what these things may mean to us. So it's always an enjoyable time to go over and dialogue back and forth with. So I hope I get to be joined by with others on us to this today. Some of the topics that Mr. Robert Cole has put together is kind of interesting. His top story that he indicated was the recent Booking.com judgment in Germany, another place in the price parity puzzle in Europe. Booking.com has got a rendering as to things, so hopefully we'll touch on that one. Under his categories of brand and product, we have what owners need to know about shared service fees. That was a Hotel News Now article. Then there's a right-sizing your resort. Is bigger better? And that's a hotel management article piece that we have. And then Taco Bell has said it's pretty much serious that pop-up hotel won't be its last. For our previous show, when we talked about Taco Bell opening up a pop-up hotel, we were wondering whether this was just fad or fiction or whether this was just a trend for people to go over and generate the buzz that it does. Under intermediaries and distributors, distribution, he has 3 topics: booking holdings delays, charging hotel fees, commissions, and a major reversal, which is quite true since we talked about that last week about the new fees that booking was doing. The other is Google and Amazon's disruption of the online travel industry is looking inevitable. We've known and talked about this. We've often said, as Mr. Tim Peter has often said, that Google is not the 800-pound gorilla in the room waiting to go over and crush everything. It's the monster that the 800-pound gorilla is afraid of because of its size and dominance so far up the stream when it comes to getting in front of our guests, potential guests. And the third topic under intermediaries and distribution is 6 strategic decisions to make when building an online travel agency. Categorically under marketing and strategy, he has 3 topics as well: how independent hotels can win with direct bookings, and that's a focuswire.com article; the future of personalization and how to get ready for it; and then the death of Google search traffic and what it means to marketers. That's actually kind of an interesting inverse and twist. And then tech and finance category, he has 3 topics as well, which is the industry heading towards a profit recession? Which we've had a conversation about more than once about on the show as to whether we've reached our plateau, which we have reached our plateau actually, and how revenues are beginning to diminish, even though there's still the demand that we have as inventory comes into market. And then let's see, how Facebook's Libra cryptocurrency might fit into travel. We've talked, of course, with Facebook's release of their Libra currency, what they will be doing with it, or their announcement that they're going to be doing it. What's the true implications of that and what problems it may have solved in comparison to its other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so forth that just don't have the leverage. Is too volatile. It hasn't made the transition over, hasn't made the impact that was intended to make. Coffee. And then we have the Ruh-Roh. Cockroaches are becoming immune to insecticides. Have a great day. Actually, that is a fun article that we did have. And it is kind of scary in its own right. Since I am by myself, I get to pick what I would like to talk about. And what I would like to talk about is actually one of the articles that Mr. Max Sarkoff has written, which was in the focuswire.com, which is how independent hotels can win at direct bookings. Now, we've had this discussion before where independent hotels have amazing flexibility and variations to what they can do. They have the ability to change and adapt to the market much easier than brands have, which have to follow they have to follow guidelines and rules, and they have to rely upon outside influences to go over and work out all the things that an independent hotel has the opportunity to work with internally for themselves. With that in mind, they also don't have the brand value perspective that brands are constantly and insistently trying to develop of being in front of guests farther along or up the funnel, as we used to say, when it comes to getting in front of guests when they're in the discovery phase and the awareness phase and the decision phases that are prior to the actual purchase. All too often, everyone crowds around the purchase opportunity, the time that when people go over and are looking to make that buy. And it's the wrong time. It's not that you don't need to be in that space. That is not the only time you want to engage your guests, but every other time earlier than that can be quite expensive from a marketing perspective. Now, from a strategy perspective, from a marketing perspective, spending large sums of money on generally not specifically interested categories of people is something that independent hotels can't do as well as brands can do for its brand constituencies. And certainly OTAs are the king of the hill when it comes to that, because they have billions in dollars of marketing that they spend, so that they're ever present. And that's a point that Max was making, is that OTOs have basically monopolized guest relationships by being really early in the conversation of discovery for them. And because of that, they're under the point of consideration through the multiplicities of 18 to 22 websites that people use to decide what they're going to be purchasing for a hotel stay. Now, talking from mathematics and functionalities, we know that on average, only 1, 2, or 3 people per 100 that visit our website actually purchase with us on our website. And for the most part, we're quite happy if we were getting 3% of all traffic to the website making acquisitions. But mathematically, that means 97 or more people out of that 100 only used us as an information source and found another channel, usually OTA or brand, to make their purchase decision. And because of that, and that's not necessarily they purchased with us. That means out of 100 people that came to our website, 3 maybe bought with us. Some more than that, and say that the average is 20, 25% of your overall traffic is direct channel. That means that somewhere another 22, 23 people purchased elsewhere. Okay. But for the most part, they're choosing between 18 to 22 websites, and OTAs is a high consideration, brand is a second high consideration. So independent hotels have a very challenging time to convert higher, because we basically fail at our own websites. We fail at our opportunity to put content that is relevant and value proposition to our guests, to identify that we are the best choice for them to make when purchasing for us, with us. That's a failing that is persistent. That is a failing that even brands have an issue with, is that they can't maintain that integrity, that not everybody coming to their brand site is actually going to acquire a brand hotel booking. But what we can do is focus in on, as Max points out, 3 major core elements of this. And that is guest engagement marketing, guest acquisition marketing, guest retention marketing. Now, it may sound like Captain Obvious when we say this, but building relationship with your visitation to your website is a paramount value proposition that you must have in order to increase that conversions. We all know from our analytics of our websites, there's a tremendous amount more people that visit the site than actually book with us. And there's a variety of reasons why they're doing that, whether it's looking for, I'm sorry, let me go back 2 things on this. One is there's visitors to our website, and then there's visitors to our website that go to our booking engine. Now, in a great day, in a great world, 1 out of 2 people that come to the website going to the booking engine is wonderful. That means that 50% of the people that came to your website want more information than just what the website initially they interacted with, and they're going to your booking engine. Where we fail a lot is that our booking engine is treated differently than our website, and the user experience and the value proposition of the booking engine is not as helpful. So it's turned into a functionality of availability and price. And oftentimes, unfortunately, a point of confusion. Too many market variations, too many promotional variations, too many decisions to make analysis of paralysis of too many choices. And because of that, simplicity and specificity is more valuable. And OTAs and brands have a stronger relationship with our guests than we do because of that disconnect between our website and our booking engine. Our website may be informative, helpful, visually great. UI may be comfortable. And I would say that only from the fact that no hotel website is still as great as it should be, but some are better than others by far. And then they take that and go into these platforms that we're forced to go through, the PMS interfaces, the engagement of actual acquisition. And there we fall short. The optimization isn't as good. The information is not as clear. The variations may be too extreme. The images may be too mundane. The actual process of what they're looking for is like a Pandora's box on a wall, because we shove everything into our booking engine. If Mr. Ed St. Ange was with us on the show today, he would talk a little bit about what he and Stuart Butler with Field Travel are doing on trying to help the guests discover what it is that the hotel's value proposition is to them individually. They're working very hard on developing a methodology that is, they're not creating gates and fences for people to have to go through, which frustrates users in the sense that they have to answer questions first. Oh, Mr. Robert, you're here.
I am. I tried to tell you on a little Facebook note, but you aren't, because you're soloing. I guess, it's like someone who's soloing a yacht or something like that. I mean, there are lots of things to take care of. But I said I was tied up with a client. I have a client who's working today, and
First rule of Fight Club. First rule of Fight Club. There is no clients when it comes to the show. The show is first.
Exactly. Well, and and I do realize that Stuart, I believe is still hospitalized due to his excessive competitive instinct for the hot dog eating contest. And so yesterday, so I think that that's a problem. Ed, I believe, is having reparatory surgery on his hands after he was kind of showing his kids how to throw firecrackers, sort of things. Tip, I'm not sure what's going on with Tip. Yeah.
I was on my soapbox as to actually I took Max Sarkoff's article first. I was hoping that you and others might join that.
Listening. I was listening.
Yeah.
I was,
and I was trying to show that the breakdown is that we are treating our booking engine as a inferior disconnect to our website, even if we succeed in our website development. We fail in our UI experience with our booking engine because we shove everything in front of the guest user, and that complexity of variations creates a paralysis of decision. And we also do such a shabby job because of what they're allowing us to do on the booking engines. We can't create that continuity that, we can bring color palettes and fonts over, and we can bring images over, but the feel, the navigation, the usability, the functionality is different than the website experience. And I know that Ed and Stuart have been working very hard on developing a interface capability of discovery for a guest that allows the guest to be put in front of them what is most interesting to them, rather than the Pandora's box of variations. So that was where I was
the navigation, the continuity of the navigation, and the analytics to be able to smoothly hand things off, especially when it comes to trying to personalize the experience. So I finally finished off my little Focusrite analysis on, basically they gave me a title that they wanted to talk, which were all the different variables for personalization, right? The context of variables. But to do that, I mean, to personalize things, you need good quality data, right? And it has to be clean. And you have to capture this across multiple devices, certainly across channel. And then and of course, the hoteliers want direct booking, so that's got to come to your website, hopefully through some sort of landing page that you understand or control the purpose of, and then to get handed off to the booking engine. And all of those things, if suddenly it's just like, oh, we stop here, and so many hotel companies do that. It's okay, we've spent money, we've done whatever to go nurture this lead, and they come in and then jarring experience into the booking engine. It's like, wait a second, I was looking for the such and such.
Mm-hmm.
And, to go have to have a completely generic experience that then requires you to type in a promo code or something like that, or some deal that goes and triggers something where the guest has to do it is absolutely horrible. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
lots of opportunity to clean that up. And even just taking the information when someone enters. My classic is 2 adults, 2 children. Do you see images of families on your website before you get to the booking engine? And again, that's a lot of people will put some sort of widget on the top of their page. If somebody enters information into that, that's kind of, I think, my bottom line point. If the user of the site takes the time to go give you an overt signal of what they want, maybe respond to that in some sort of relevant fashion would probably be worthwhile and considered a hospitable thing by
Mm-hmm.
the travelers.
Right.
But so often that's just totally ignored.
And as Max pointed out, Max is different for both of us, and I enjoy so much that now that he has time on his hands to do these articles and write about what he's always been passionate about, without the constraints of having to run a business, build a business, and everything else. He he it's so easy to look at some of these the articles and they're just cotton candy titles with very little behind it. But Max always presents some good conversations. And even though some of the things that he's pointing to
But
are obvious, go ahead.
but privately, you always told me that Max is always 100% wrong, Lauren. Why is it? No, oh, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, I mean, no, actually, some of the most engaging arguments I've ever had have been with Max because he is
That's right.
brilliant about what he knows about and very opinionated about it. But he is
Oh
also
yeah,
he doesn't come to the table without justification of his opinions, which is always
right.
wonderful to meet and
Oh no,
talk
he
to
can
people like
back it
that.
up. Yeah, he isn't just Max isn't the kind of guy who just casually jumps on something and
Mm-mm,
then
mm-mm.
argues about it.
Right. No,
Oh
he
no,
comes
he,
with
he
he
can
comes with
back it
facts and
up.
figures. I mean, and then like I said, in the article that he have, and I put the link up for to be shared, is that in his contention that there are three aspects that independent hotel should be focusing on: engagement marketing, acquisition marketing, retention marketing. He talks about the five phases, which is common knowledge to any marketer. You have the dreaming, the planning, the booking, the experiencing, the sharing. But what he does do a nice job of is he relates the three contexts of the engagement, acquisition, and retention within the framework of what those five phases mean. Um, and the key element I think that we all fall down on is that from an independent marketing perspective is that we're so much about the acquisition and conversion that we forget about the engagement and retention. That
Right.
we're so much about at the point of ZMOD, the zero moment of transaction, that we forget that there's a like any relationship, you build up the engagement, the trust, and the information so that people are able and capable of making a decision. Um,
Right.
and that's the key element to this. And what gets missed a lot of times is that people use social as a direct channel when it's really an amplifier. It's an increasing opportunity for communication, not a methodology in its purest form of conversion. It does convert, but so
Mhm.
small in comparison to its real value, which is the engagement, storytelling, trust, awareness, discovery. Those are words that go around social a lot more. So, and then when I
Yeah.
talk with clients and everybody else, and speaking and so forth, is that I point out the fact that your social program is from a moment of where you want the realization to happen way far back. It's way into the storyline of discovery when people are not yet ready to even decide if they're even coming to you,
Right.
let alone if they're going to stay with you. But being made aware of why they might be interested is where social has a high value to it.
Well, and as you said, Max used the kind of the five stages that Google uses. I use seven, and I can go into that, but I always use the graphic as a circle because really that sharing phase, the last one after the actual experience, that's what then feeds the dreaming. And certainly you can have conversational commerce is a big topic now, of having, social interaction while while individuals are booking or going through the dreaming, planning booking process. But again, it should be that it if worked properly, that your satisfied guests should be sharing that information and then inspiring and influencing others to use it. If they had a great time, they will tell people about it. But the
Mm-hmm.
one thing
Mm-hmm.
that I do is I break planning actually into three phases because I think planning is outrageously complicated and people handle it in very, very different manners. And I break it down into actually actually three. One is research, right? So you may be inspired. Let's say it's a honeymoon, right? People go, oh, well, I saw William and Kate went to the Seychelles or something like that. Isn't that great? And where are the Seychelles? And they go, oh, damn, didn't realize they're out there in the Indian Ocean. It's a long way away, sort of thing. How much does it cost to get there? How long does it take? Oh, God, that's horrible, right? Yeah, the logistics are not going to work. And that's where, the research phase winds up being, what are the available alternatives, right?
Mhm.
What should we be? Because dreaming, you can get an idea, but then you start going, well, let's get this down into something that's that's usable. Then the actual planning starts being the cost and the itinerary. So I kind of look at the dreaming phases going, wow, here's an idea. Research, here are all the alternatives that we have. And then planning starts winnowing those down to, okay, those are too expensive. Those take too much time. Those are such and such. That isn't the kind of hotel we want. It's too far from the beach, whatever the case may be. And then I think most people wind up with some little subset. And of course, some people go through this very, very differently. They go and say, oh, there's a Marriott. Good, we're done. There's a Marriott nearby. Let's just stay there. But other ones go very, very detailed. And so, they come down to some sort of subset. Maybe they got 2 or 3 options. Well, then the third part of it is validation, right? How do they really make sure that what they've kind of come up with through whatever it is, friends and relatives or a search engine, an OTA, what do? A lot of them wind up on something like TripAdvisor or something to try to go, can I get kind of a neutral source to tell me
Mhm.
if have I made the right decision? I mean, certainly that's why people use quality travel agents, who can go do all this stuff, give them a few options, tell them the pluses, minuses, and go, guess what? Any of these 3 are great. You aren't screwing up. Which would you like best? Right.
Right.
And but anyway, once you get through the validation, then you can book, right? Because you're
Mhm.
kind of confident that's the one I'm going to. And if you don't kind of get that, I've looked at my alternatives. I've figured out that these are the best ones. And yes, I haven't screwed up. That looked like a great hotel, but oh my God, horrible reviews. When I see dirt and rude, those 2 terms, dirty or rude, that may turn a few people off. So,
Right.
I think you wind up getting through that. Then you can get to the booking, and hotels don't treat it that way. I mean,
Mm.
their planning winds up being on their website. Even the large brand websites wind up being, where's your destination? We'll give you a list. sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll give you a listed price order, which is not what they're looking for. It may be, boy, if you're lucky enough to be a brand, someone may say, I want a beach that's going to have 24-hour room service or what, something or other that's near a UNESCO heritage site or something. I don't know, whatever they're interested in. And you just can't do that on these websites, which is a bit of a disservice to the customers, because you would think by this time most of these hotel groups would have gone through the process of how do you behave, what are your interests in accomplishing this goal, how would you like to go about it, not constrained by the 1980s GDS booking process, right? Which is still how everybody does it. So anyway.
And that goes back to a little bit of what we've said on a number of occasions, is that we're trying to base our ability to engage with our guests on historically how we used to engage with our guests when technology isn't what technology is now. And just because we forced people, just like marketing back in the 60s was, we controlled the message. Companies, because of their ability to control communication mediums, curated their message. And that was the only message that was out there, because there was no other voices out there other than what was curated by them. Now, with our ability to have everybody have a voice and everybody have an opinion, every perspective, there's this whole new dynamic associated with discovery that is beyond the controllable message from the hotel. It's about engagement of communication from the hotel in the mediums that people are using. And yet our methodology so much hasn't changed, because we still keep trying to shove them through this progressive linear engagement that doesn't work as the same anymore. It's more of a circular global thing. It could be squirrel and off on the left hand side for some, you don't know why they're coming to stay with you.
Lauren, would Do you search for hotels like that with certain points of distraction and shiny object,
Squirrel.
sort of thing? Well, that is how people. Well, and there. I think I mentioned on the show before, especially in leisure travel, there are really almost 6 core personas when you really get into not necessarily the persona of why they're traveling, but the true buckets of travelers. So the first one, and actually the way that I've broken it down is people who like packages and people who dislike packages almost, right? And so for the group that like packages, they're looking for convenience and things, and it's a huge group of individuals, right? I mean, all the airline vacation sites, all the major tour operators, very large chunk of the vacation travel industry. But there are 3 subsectors of those guys. One are the ones who go to travel agents because maybe it's really important, right? They're going on a honeymoon or something like that. They don't want it screwed up and they need expert support, right? A destination wedding. Do not plan a destination wedding on your own.
Right.
There are a few moving parts, and if you overlook something, really bad things can happen. Like, oh, you weren't actually married.
You wanted a bus to pick you up at the airport? What?
Yeah, exactly. There are lots of logistics. So yes, get some assistance on that. And yeah, that's great. So you kind of have your travel agents. The next one I mentioned before, the brand loyalists, right? And a lot of these skew, higher income corporate executives, and they don't have enough time, right? They just go, I know United Airlines, I know Southwest Airlines. Let's just go grab a flight, right? Either one, that's good enough. I want to go there or I want to use my miles. But then who do you trust, right? And you go, hey, I trust Expedia. That's how I'm going to go book my trip, right? And they just jump to it, or Marriott or wherever they go. That's fine. They don't have 40 windows open, right? They're just, let's get this thing done. The third group are really the agnostic folks who they don't care who the brand is. They're going to go find what's the best deal, and they're going to go, again, they're going to buy it in a bundle, but they may go to a tour operator and just go, I've never heard of a Viceroy hotel, or whatever the case may be, but boy, that sure looks nice. That's great, but they'll do it, they'll buy it in some sort of bundle where they feel this is quicker, faster, better. The 3 who don't like bundled sort of things are very interesting. I think one are the true explorers. They have the 40 windows open because that exploration in their travel extends into their life of how they go search for things, right? So they overanalyze everything and explore and find it, and it's the do-it-yourselfer, right? It's like, yes, I built my den. I handcrafted all the woodwork. Well, that's great. People approach travel that way. And then you have the other ones who they just go back to the same destination every year, right? They've got their condo, their beachfront condo, and they show up, and the people from Cuyahoga Falls are next door because they always get the same week, and it's great. And they've got a little remote family of group of people that they know in that destination, and they go back over and over. Or buddies going to Vegas, right? Well, we go to Vegas every year to go do whatever. That's great. They don't do research. They know the destination just pow. And then the third ones who hate packages, they don't have enough money. They don't travel very often. They're inexperienced travelers. They don't know what they're doing, and they just kind of muddle away and kind of have a bad thing. So out of those 6 groups, those are really outrageously different behaviors of what's necessary. And again, it's interesting where the hotels are all like, oh, we'll get a direct booking. It's like, well, you know what? If that first group wants to go through travel agents and they like packaging, boy, I don't think they can get that direct, right? And, here's another group where they might be loyal to Expedia or a Priceline or a tour, Apple Vacations or whatever the case may be. That's where they're going to go. Or the third group is building it themselves. Well, yeah, you better get out in front of them and do that. But they like packages. How are you going to get involved with that? Right? So all of a sudden you start looking at this, you go, oh, wait a second. These hoteliers, are kind of only, hitting maybe one group, who are the ones who are open 40 windows and find it and do it yourself. And you kind of go, okay, that you've now eliminated, whatever, 60%,
Right.
70% of the
And
other
just to make it even
travelers,
more
which is
complex is that one
scary.
traveler that's looking in a certain way, maybe as you say, with packages in mind, is exactly different traveler in a different circumstance. That because
Absolutely.
their purpose of travel
Absolutely.
literally changes when they do something else different. So where
It
one
can
minute they're
change
looking for
at the
packages,
same time.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
planning they're planning their family vacation and this weird business trip they have to take in November, which
hmm,
looks pretty complicated,
right,
right? Because oh my God, I mean, I've got one of those. I've got to be in Phoenix on one day. I think it's a Monday or Tuesday, and I've got to be in West Palm Beach on Wednesday or something like
mm.
that. And you're like, okay, that's convenient. So
And then the
how
family's
the hell
catching up
do I
with you
do
in
it?
West Palm Beach before you go off to someplace else. I mean, yeah, there's a whole
Right.
mix of
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's the same person doing that. I mean, they haven't changed. They just have grossly different objectives. And even, doing that, it may be, oh, who cares? My company's paying for it. So I'm finding the shortest flight times, and I'm going to find the nicest hotel that my company will permit me to stay in,
Mhm.
versus, a leisure one, maybe, boy, we're making some trade-offs because we're spending our own money. Would love to go 5-star, but we can't do that. And with the little kids, maybe that's not a great idea for the fine dining room at the St. Regis. So, what's the best option? You get really, really mixed things, which again is very difficult when it comes to
Yes.
personalizing experiences. So,
I have noticed, and you know how I love AppSumo. The software, some of the things are being pushed out
a
there
good
now.
example: brand loyalty to AppSumo, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you no, but literally, if you want an app, you aren't out there with 40 windows out there looking around to go, I'm going to do it. You go into AppSumo and go, what do you got? Right.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
I mean, literally,
yeah,
there's an app that I've picked up from them called Adducto, ADDUCO. I can put the link up in the show
is that
notes.
a Harry Potter spell?
Yeah. Luminosa.
Adducto.
But here's the interesting part about it that I'm trying to understand, and it's always there's bleeding edge, leading edge, and then the normalities of things, and everything goes through this progression. The This thing is a bleeding edge one in my mind because I'm really trying to understand. Facebook gives you a tremendous amount of insights, and they try to explain it in ways for you to understand it. Not just demographic information about age and genders and so forth, but actual propensities of interest, like whether they're adventurous, not adventurous, things like this. Well, this app Adducto is going even beyond that. It's creating these scattergrams of intent and interest, and based on
And
your
that's it.
actual audiences.
And that's
And
what it's all about.
yeah,
If the key is figuring out intent, right?
yeah,
I mean, that's really the bottom line.
and trying to understand what it is that makes these people interested with you. I brought it before on the show where I was doing campaign and on Twitter, and it was with Twitter. For people to understand, Twitter is not something I recommend on a complete marketing strategy all the time because it is situational. It's usually event driven, and it's usually a saturation marketing where you are just flooding the market for a short period of time with an immediacy of decision. There's no buildup of engagements because it is a 7-second attention span. It is literally the shiny object and squirrel. But what I did notice in my
And people won't necessarily see it, right?
right,
Because
that's the
it's
thing.
so
Yeah,
real
I
time.
mean, it
And
just
that's why all
it's
the news people love it, because it's what's going on,
right.
conversational with, with other folks, and what's the hot topic,
Yep.
and things like
So,
that.
you
But
use it for only certain things, but when on this campaign, I went over and decided to find out about music preferences as a function of the Twitter business
oh
ad
yeah,
campaign through. And music genre literally tripled the conversion value by choosing genres. And then I even increased that even farther when I started picking artists within that genre. It had
yeah,
nothing to do with the event itself. It wasn't a music event or anything I was doing with. It was simply literally the preference of the people that were engaging with the ad, the post. Okay,
yeah,
their music preferences isolated them to have the frequency of the ad show up more often, and it improved the
right,
conversion value.
right. And
And
that's now what a lot of these big data AI type applications are doing, because they're finding here are the individuals who are booking the all-inclusive Jamaican resort, right, for families versus the all-inclusive Jamaican resort, which are adults only. Really different products.
Yeah,
Same
don't get those
destination.
confused when you're booking.
No. That's a very bad thing. But again, those two things, they're in the same destination. They could be directly next to each other on the same beach, the same size,
Yeah,
same number of restaurants, all this stuff, except they cater to two different markets,
yes,
which is great. And they're both really good markets. So yeah, what do you find out? You go back through all of these signals and you discover, oh my God, the ones who love Nirvana go to the family one. Who they love Nirvana, an Italian opera. Really? That's
yeah,
odd. But
yeah.
but at that point, it's like, who cares? It is. That's the we've discovered for some bizarre, and that's maybe a really bad example. But you suddenly find out there's this high correlation between the groups who love both of those, who are highly satisfied with this hotel, and maybe it is eclectic or who knows why, but
And
all of a
don't
sudden
and
you
don't
start
don't do,
doing
do
that.
music genres to ages either. I learned that very quickly. There are plenty
Right.
of very young people, kids that love classic rock. Don't think classic rock's an age
My
genre of somebody like us.
my
You know,
21-year-old daughter wanted to go to Paul McCartney, right? She wanted to see him, and she's kicking herself for when she was in high school she didn't go see the Rolling Stones, right?
mm,
So she loves it. Now she also likes rap. She also likes a variety of really different things. So you can't just say here are Rolling Stones people, but all of a sudden, if you understand, that's the thing about Amazon, right? Amazon understands the books people read, the gifts, the things they buy, the music they listen to, the movies they watch. All of a sudden, you start going, okay, I got a good idea about that person, sort of thing. I mean, most people, when they're dating before they get married, don't have that kind of appreciation of here are all the data points I know about this person, of what they really like, right? And
mhm.
Amazon, or you're saying Facebook, they may be able to surface that stuff, much more easily than you sitting down with a focus group or something like
Right.
that, even with that individual. So,
I'll let me show you something real quick here. I'm going to go over and turn screen share on and see
so
how well.
how do you spell the name of this app? Adducto,
Yeah,
AD.
ADDUCO. I'm going to show you the screen here real quick.
Oh,
Um, so I'm doing campaign for
Adducto.
HSMAI for Asia Pacific region for their Singapore event that's up next week, next Tuesday. And
Oh.
the scary part of
Now,
this is,
Lauren, will you be traveling there?
no, I will
You
not. I
should
would love
be.
to be able to, but
They
uh,
need to bring you there personally,
I
because
say
really,
I share the same sentiment with that. I really believe the same thing for it. So here we are,
and to
demographic.
fly you first class also. I
Well,
think that is
that's a mandate.
only
Plus, green M and M's, but that's a whole other thing on the contract. But anyway, so I'm not going to create any sort of like compare sources as of yet. But it gives geography, it gives demographics, it gives language. Okay, fine. This is where it starts getting interesting. It starts turning into the psychometric breakdowns of the people that are
yeah.
engaged and their propensities for certain things and their interest in certain things. It's and interpreting this is the tough part. This is where I think AI is really going to make an impact in our industry, is because it's going to help us understand these correlations that we're just not jumping out as. There's no obvious.
Sure.
Well, there always can be some obvious thing to it, but there's not a like a standing. Oh, these things right here, right now. That's it. That's and so forth and so on. And these are engagements and behaviors and
Yeah.
desktop and so forth.
Yeah,
But
we're
this
the
kind
hotel
of
that's attached to the stadium overlooking the field. Okay. Well, yeah, so we may have some certain odd sorts of things on game days that indicate who's going to want to stay here, sort of thing.
Right. It's going into understanding these things and using it in a meaningful way so that, and again, this isn't to manipulate or exploit the guest. It's to actually refine our messaging to be only relevant to the people that are interested in it. It's not to put junk in front of people that are not interested in what you have to say.
Right. Right. Yeah. How do you find the people who are most, how do you provide them with the most relevant content and the best product for something that they will truly appreciate and be satisfied with. I mean, that's the bottom line, is that guest satisfaction that then drives them sharing and all that sort of thing. And if you can start mapping, hey, you know what? The people who, again, more data points of these are the ones who really provided us with great 5-star reviews. Fantastic. What do those folks have in common? Yes, you may be able to figure out here are the certain things that they did at the hotel that they really liked, and what was great. And then you can start talking about, oh, they all went to the art museum, or they all had great meals down at the down at the waterfront, or whatever those key satisfiers are during the trip. But then, what did they go through the booking process? What things got them down the funnel, and what kind of interest do they generally have way up that dreaming, that dreaming phase? How do you kind of connect with them up there? Right. I mean, and then how do you put content in front of them to kind of be, aware? So even though they do a ski vacation and a beach vacation every other year over the winter holidays, how do you grab them for that, when they're planning their next ski vacation 13 months from now? Right? That's kind of the key to it. And it is not simple, and it is a hell of a lot harder than if you're selling bikinis. And Lauren, today is National Bikini Day. I'm wearing
my, yes, of course. I have my Borat version. I bring it up like Bikini Day, so yeah, we're all good. Hey,
it is a lot harder than if you're selling a piece of clothing or some shoes or something like that. This is really, really challenging stuff.
It's a little bit like knowing where the lightning is going to strike and standing there with the rod to make sure you catch it.
Well, and you've done that 6 times, haven't you? We have stumbled upon the essence of your consulting practice. Know where lightning is going to strike.
Know where lightning is going to strike. That's my tagline now. That's my tagline. I know where lightning is going to strike. Hey, we only have articles to prove it. You gave us 14 good ones. I don't want to miss the Rutrow just because it is fun, but I already read through all of them, so that I did.
Yes, I know. But you aren't supposed to tell people about, Lauren. The whole thing is the anticipation of the Rutrow, the design of this whole thing to build up a narrative where it just comes to this fevered pitch of people wanting, what's the Rutrow, and then that's like the culmination.
Yeah, well, we could always talk about the fact that if spiders were left unchecked, they'd take over the world. That was another article that I thought was kind of like a bad Rutrow.
Humans are doing that.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And that squid may be the most intelligent life form. It might be an alien species on our planet. That's another one that I thought was kind of cute. But anyways, so what would be an article?
Speak for yourself.
So what would be an article of your choice that you would like to bring out that you were so gracious?
Well, the top one I thought was interesting, which was the Booking.com judgment in Germany. This whole thing with rate parity, right, is just a complete mess because, and actually quite interesting, this JD Supra article, at least in my opinion, completely confused the topics that are at play in these rate parity arguments. So there are two kind of correlated things. One is what they call resale price maintenance, right? And resale price maintenance is the manufacturer's suggested retail price, right? Where you go, hey, that's an Apple computer or whatever. Your AirPods cost whatever they are, $199. And you can't really find AirPods anywhere else for less than that, right? That's just not what it is. That's Apple invoking their kind of resale price maintenance. Quite legal in the United States, because the way the United States court decisions have looked at this, they say, we assume this is okay because it's a vertical price constraint, right? It's that manufacturer saying, hey, you're an agent or a reseller of my stuff, so that's okay. That's my price. We've put a lot of research and development into this. We've done a lot of things. Here's the price. This gives us the returns. and we don't want you free riding on this just by undercutting we've done all this work, and now you're just going to go grab the sale and get your thing for undercutting, but that's not right, right? So basically the Supreme Court came out and said, yeah, that's okay as long as it doesn't harm the consumer. Now, if you can prove it harms the consumer, then boom, yes, come down on you and you have to stop doing it. But the burden of proof is to prove there is consumer harm. In the UK and EU sort of scenario, and in Germany, it's actually the opposite. They say this is per se illegal. You can't have these vertical price constraints. We assume those hurt consumers.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you can prove they don't, you can't do them, right? So that's for especially a hotelier operating a global marketplace, rate parity is getting very complicated sort of thing, right? So in Germany, basically they came out and first they said it's illegal completely. And then Booking.com kind of came up with a creative way and said, well, what if we do something called narrow parity, where we understand that the hotel operator who just says these have to be the prices everywhere across a couple things. We understand how that's getting a little horizontally, which I don't see that way, and U.S. courts don't see that, but that's how the European courts kind of say, yeah, we'll stop that. But why don't we say that we can have an agreement with the hotel that the hotel can't undercut the price that we have,
right?
Sort of. Right. And you kind of go, wait a second, that's completely backwards from resale price maintenance, which is the manufacturer invoking the price on this. So you're like, this is totally flipped. And basically, I think in 2010, the courts kind of went along with that. Then I can't remember, it was 2013, 2015. The German court struck it and says, no, you can't have that. You can't have any form of rate parity. You just do it, whatever. And now they just came back and the Competition Commission came and said, you know what, it's okay. We think it's okay. This narrow form is actually not hurting consumers. We've looked at it and we think it's all right. So expect, I was going back and forth with a couple of folks in the Focusrite email bucket about it, and a guy who covers the German market. We had slightly different takes on it, but the bottom line was, hey, the lawyers and the regulators are going to love this because this is going to keep them employed.
They are going to
be the big winners. But this article said it had to do with, also known as parity or most favored nations. Most favored nations clauses are really, really different. Those are saying nobody is going to get a lower price than we do, right? So it is kind of a vertical constraint with the relationship of it, and it is originated by the distributor really more than the supplier. Resale price maintenance is kind of a supplier-driven thing, but this is sort of, that gets a little bit more horizontally, right? You're saying, hey, if I'm Expedia, you can't give Booking a lower price than we get. But that's also on the cost side, right? That doesn't have anything to do with the consumer's retail price. It's marked up. So if it's a merchant model booking, yeah, sure, Expedia wants most favored nations status because they're like, yeah, we want a lower cost of goods than Booking or anybody else. And hey, if you invoke resale price maintenance on us, well, maybe that's okay because now we structurally know our margins are equal to or better than competition, right? So you can work with that. So two really kind of different things in conflict. But I think hoteliers are going to have to look at this. All the ones who are saying they did not want rate parity or this resale price maintenance, I say, wow, be careful what you wish for, because when you do that, all of a sudden, all these online travel agencies or any form of distributor can undercut your price. You have nothing to control them to do it. And you may think that you're clever, doing something cheaper on your own. But basically what this German court came in and said, hey, those hotels are free riding on all the work the distributors are doing. Look at all the advertising Booking.com is doing to drive people to their website. And then the hotel comes in and says, hey, you can book it through us for €2 cheaper. That's not right. Yeah, they didn't know who that hotel was before. Booking did all the work. And the hotel, so really, really interesting dynamics here, which I don't know. We'll see how the thing turns out. But I think that's some really interesting stuff with antitrust. And my theory is this is a mess. It's going to get worse. The hoteliers who started doing this whole undercut the prices on their own thing, blowing up resale price maintenance, they are not going to win on this. They are going to get killed. So
Well, to quote a little Star Wars here, they pulled a Ray where it's like you're going to release the bonds and drop your weapon. They totally
yeah,
reversed the whole thing. It's like, wait a minute, okay, it's backwards. These aren't the droids we're looking for. These are the droids we're looking for.
it really is. And when you get these regulators, the problem for the hotel industry is this is complicated stuff, right? There are a lot of factors of merchant versus agency model rates where and certainly Booking and Expedia got into this with Booking going out and saying we're going to go charge on resort fees, right? We're going to charge a fee, kind of using the same thing, like, hey, we nurtured everything for this, you're getting this mandatory fee, we should get part of it, we did the work, we led that person to your hotel, right? So why aren't you compensating us accordingly? You're hiding some of the money over on the side. Yeah, it's going to be ugly. So, and I think the distributors wind up, especially when you start looking at, oh, they're giving lower prices to consumers. That doesn't seem to hurt consumers. Yeah. So anyway, we'll see. But that was my top story. A little esoteric, but something I've been following intently since the mid '90s.
So you haven't been tenaciously following this at all. This has just been a recent thing for you. So what other article would you like?
Again, bottom line, maybe the hoteliers want to maintain control over their retail pricing structures.
Yeah.
Seems like maybe something you want to do. So, or you can commoditize yourself and just lose control of your pricing and just let the market go do whatever they will, especially when you're offering groups 15% discounts. They can then go, in bad times, decide to take a 5%, decide their margin can be 5%, and they'll undercut you by 10% to go shift the booking temporarily, thinking that they have deeper pockets than you do, right? And they can go win a customer, and they can sell them other stuff, not just your specific hotel or your specific brand, but a whole wide range of products and be a one-stop shop. So
what was your take? I know you pulled this article out, the right sizing your resort is bigger, better. What was your take on that?
I just thought that was a really interesting article because they kind of said bigger resorts are better. And I just thought that's really misguided because it needs to be tied into the purpose of the travelers and what they're trying to accomplish. I think what they're looking at is fundamentally, I mean, if you really just pared this down, is yes, you wind up, and this is from JLL, hotels. They develop a lot of hotels and help people, work in a lot of hotel transactions and things like that. I think they're basically looking at this going, big box demonstrated superior profit margin at gross operating profit to local revenue ratio of 39%, earnings before taxes margin of 29, almost 30%. They're going, these things do better. And it's like, okay, they better because they've got a whole bunch of other fees and things like that are associated with them. But I look at it as economies of scale, right? You got more guest rooms versus staff versus fixed cost of running the operation. That would generally be the case in terms of that. But that's not necessarily a great experience that would then earn a higher ADR. Right.
As one fellow business owner to another fellow business owner, it's really easy to look at your top line numbers. It's what your bottom line numbers generate is the key element to this part. When you're looking at top line revenues for a hotel, yes, a larger resort can command higher ADRs, can command mathematically better RevPAR, but the cost associations with those things, the extra operational things that have to go on, the ratios of staff to guests and everything else that have to increase proportionally for it to be a success perpetually. I mean, you could lean it out and for a short period of time show a better margin, but at the end you're hurting yourself because you're diminishing your product and people are lifetime value and all that other stuff. But so top line revenue, sure, I'm selling a product that's $1,000 retail, but it cost me $999 to make it. I ain't that all that good. That ain't a good business,
Well, and again, I really, similar to kind of my comments on some of the Calibri stuff, I tend on this one to just hammer the methodology, right? Because what did they do? You got to look at the sample size and go, they analyzed a select set of upper upscale and above resorts. So upper upscale and luxury resorts located in the United States based on size. Okay, so these are upper upscale and above resorts. They had 3 sizes. Standard 400 to 700 rooms. That's a pretty big resort, right? 700 to 950 rooms. That's a large. So standard is 400 to 700. Large is 700 to 950. And big box is larger than 950, right? So, and they come back and they say, well, big box, from 2010 to 2018, the big box ones had a materially higher average occupancy of 73% compared to large scale 69 and the standard 61%. Well, guess what? I think that kind of variation in occupancy is what's driving your profitability. Flat out, done, right? And so you kind of look at it and go, I don't know. And then, they did look at ADR. And they said standard, which is a smaller hotel, had the highest ADR, followed by large, followed by big box. And you kind of go, that makes a lot of sense also, right? Straight supply and demand. Less supply, you have a constraint, higher price. So this, I think, article, quite honestly, the reason I threw it in was this is just fundamental economics. Mm-hmm. I don't think there are really that much insights, but I think people are then going to read this and go, we need to build more, 1,000-room resorts because they're more profitable. And it's like, certainly not in an area where you don't need one. That would be a really, really bad mistake. So anyway, I think it's garbage personally, but that's okay.
I do too. I was like, you put it in there, I'm like,
I apologize to my friends with JLL, but I think that's not a quality analysis. And it really depends on that select set of hotels. I think that would be very interesting to see how many of these are, what were the real fact, what were the individual properties that went and drove all of this. And,
One thing I wanted to bring up, and I appreciate you actually pulling it. This has been a source of my information for a long time. Social Media Examiner has been Mike Stelzner. He's one of my favorite podcasts over the years. I've listened to him perpetually. He's always been really good. He's done some great successful things. He has a great social media summit out in San Diego every year that he has just over by the USS Intrepid, that hotel there, that big hotel. I forget what it's called, but it's a really pretty hotel. And he does a great job with it. He does an online summit in October, he used to. The thing on San Diego is called Social Media World. And it is really the best in the social media space are out there as speakers, and he does a great job. So I can only recommend very highly the podcast. Is a great one he puts together. But in his article of, here, I'll post it up here. The death of Google search traffic and what it means for marketers. At first, you're wondering, it's like, wait a minute, what do you mean death of social media? But he makes some really compelling points about how. Okay, I'm just going to read a couple of stats off on some things that
providing answers as opposed to the 10 links, right? Is kind of what's changed.
Some points he made in his article, which I thought was great, was there are 10,000 employees working on Alexa product, and they've sold over 100 million Alexa devices. That's holy crap. That's crazy. Now, he says, here's what Alexa is really good at, providing you a single answer to your question. Historically, here's what Google has been really good at, providing you millions of answers to your question. But then he goes into show of how we're looking up like the state of California, it actually answers it in the autofill in Chrome. But then when you look at desktop versus mobile and so forth, he's showing that Google is doing everything ahead of the actual search results to answer your question. Right. Which means if you find an answer to your question, you're not going to go farther on. So his article's premise of the death of search traffic turns into a valid question. Like, well, if we get our answer without having to go farther, we turn into, and we know this, that Google's been doing this for a while. It wants to be your best personal assistant. It doesn't want to have to give you 10 options to your answer. It wants to give you your
Absolutely
answer,
not.
similar to Alexa, you know?
And the best answer for you, and not to be evil to sell you the highest margin item for Google, right? I mean, maybe that's a tiebreaker, way down the list, but they want one that you're going to go, that worked really well.
Right.
That was fast. That was an easy process. And boy, that answer was perfect.
Right.
And they can stand behind, this is what customers want, to go develop that. And you can say, no, send them to our website, and you run into the TripAdvisor problem, right? The whole meta search issue, which again, Google now, is certainly very aware. Great. You can buy the traffic sent to your website, and then you screw up the conversion because you got a crappy behaving website that isn't optimized and isn't delivering a quality experience. Why not just give it to them now, right? Let them book. Get an assisted booking, right? So,
Put the link for the.
Yeah. So I thought it was some of the stats in here were pretty interesting. 49% of all Google search traffic does not result in a click. That's a stunning statistic. And he used Social Media Examiner as an example. And it's like, hey, social media was searched 1.43 million times over 90 days. Less than 9% or less than 1% of those people clicked on the link for Social Media Examiner, which is probably one of the best sites you can use to go to get information on it, right? So and they're looking at, Wikipedia was number one. There is a really weird website that they'd never heard of, number two. And I think I always love to see those and go, what are they doing? Right? They are doing some sort of SEO magic, right, to get into the second slot. But anyway, you start looking at this and you go, wow, that's really hard. Where you look at in his case, 1.43 million impressions and under 12,000 clicks, right? And his average position is actually sixth. So that's a daunting task. How do you work your way up that to get some attention, or be the ones who provide the answer, right?
Right, and it goes back to a lot of what we're saying and perpetually saying is that this is Google's sandbox, this is Amazon's sandbox, this is Facebook's sandbox, and our business. If you lean on, I think you put a great article 2 weeks ago on, reliance too much on Google and Facebook, you're always going to be at their mercy as to what they allow and don't allow to have access to you. And this is evident by the way Google's refining its engagement with its users, that as long as Google's being used and they can monetize that functionality of usability, then it's not about them making your business a success. It's about them making their business a success. And so if you're not showing up, or you're not going, if they're not even finding you now in search because Google was able to answer sufficiently the query that you put in, eventually, how are you going to talk to your guests? I mean, unless you have their phone number, their email, again, it goes back to cultivating your own data and your own personalization of relationship with your guests. That is the true core of you maintaining that value proposition, which I think you actually have another article on. What a great segue.
Well, and it's interesting what Social Media Examiner was doing, though. Again, they looked at they noticed a 25% decline in their organic traffic, right? That's a material decline in terms of getting candidates to your site that you can then nurture and do that. But now what are they doing? They're really looking at their conversion rate. How do they optimize that? And one of their decisions is they're going beyond the written word, right? They're doing audio and video and stuff like that. And I certainly think hoteliers need to take that into consideration, but I think that's going to be very, very difficult, for a lot of them to do an effective podcast or something to talk about their property. But there have to be clever ways to talk about, here's what's going on in the city, and to become kind of the authority. And again, if all the hotels start doing that, that's going to get really crowded and really, maybe not, maybe not good. And is there enough interest to sustain people over a period of time? It's probably not going to be travelers. It's going to be local people, right? Who will then nurture, tell friends, no, oh, you should go stay at this place. These guys are great. They know what's going on. It's going to be a tough challenge. So.
The link I just put up is the other article you put in, which is the the personalization, the future of personalization.
Oh,
because it ties exactly with what we're talking about right now, which is and it uses Alexa again as an example as it gets smarter. I mean, even on the news last night, it was talking about the data that's being retained by Alexa and how long it's being retained and what it hears and what it keeps recording and so forth. Even though all the news channels point out the fact that this stuff's listening to you all the time, even though Ed St. Ange will go over and tell you that he's unplugged this thing, so, and put the tinfoil hat on, people are still using this with the open-endedness that it's on all the time. And this article talks about how we as marketers, it talks more than just marketing, but how we in marketing and product providers need to go over and evolve in our dialogue with people as people are learning to dialogue about our product. And it's through the usage of things like Alexa and Google Assistant and everything else where, and he gave some great examples of 4 categorizations that it shows skill sets. And I've built Alexa skill sets, and it's just logic flow, really. It's shopping where you're asking, ask Domino's to track my order, or tell Starbucks to start my order. Informational intent. What's the news? Home control, preheat the oven to 350, because all of these things are getting played. The Internet of Things are all connecting like this. Driving, activate climate control. These are all things that are now a daily part of our routine. 10 years ago, we would have thought this is sci-fi. You walk into your home, and you're talking to it like you're on Star Trek. Computer, turn on the lights. Now it's a normalcy. It's like, all right, okay, Google, turn on light 1.
And how are the hoteliers tapping into that? It's just, boy, people are getting used to that at home. Does your hotel do that? And it's like, oh, well, yes, but we now have a completely separate device, and it doesn't work with Alexa. And we've gone with Google Assistant, or we've gone a full Apple type thing, and all of a sudden it's like, uh-oh, that's not good. So, and all of a sudden your stuff that you're used to doesn't quite work, or you're staying someplace for a night or two. You need to learn new trigger terms for all of these things. That's not, because the last thing you want to do is start telling the assistant, you go, hey, Alexa, set the temperature to 70 degrees. And it goes, I don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, that's, or the water in the sink, or the water in the shower turns on and goes to 70 degrees. I don't know. Right. So, not good, which then I think brings up another story, which was, see, all of these are interrelated, right? It's a
complex web of content that you put together. They're all interlaced.
Exactly. But no, I think, when you say hotels face increasing risk of security breach by cyber hackers, boy, once you start getting all these interrelated systems, going in, then what happens, right? Because now you've got a whole bunch of stuff that you've got to control, and it's all tied back to personal information because you want it to be super highly personalized and tailored to that unique experience, right? I mean, it gets ugly, folks. Really ugly.
If you want to tie it to one of the other articles you put in this week about the Facebook Libra, you're talking about doing currency, and you want the convenience factor of just simply say, I want to, okay, Google, I want to order Alexa pizza, or Facebook, I want to order Alexa pizza, blah, blah, blah. And it, it takes it automatically out of your account, where you don't even have to bother through the process of conversion. Just say, it takes it out of your crypto account.
Yeah. Okay, Alexa, I want a kilo of Coke and 5 AR-15s because we're having a bachelor party and it's going to be fun. No,
You have a
no.
strange Alexa.
Hey, Prime. I mean, hey, you got Prime now, sort of thing. But no, I mean, the crypto thing, and it is interesting. And actually, that's probably a very bad example. That's more of a Silk Road / Bitcoin example, I guess. But and I think Silk Road is shut down. I'm not. I think as far as people know, it's shut down. It probably is in the dark web somewhere or other.
Yeah.
But again, you start getting those sorts of things where complete anonymity in Bitcoin because there is no central authority. That's the whole point. You aren't relying on governments. You aren't relying on banks or corporations. This is just complete independent peer to peer. And the problem is, well, what if something goes wrong? You go, we can tell you that was a value. That transaction occurred. That is a valid transaction. Your Bitcoin equivalent, those 100 coins just went out of your account and were successfully transferred to that other account over there. Who is that? Couldn't tell you.
Right.
Where's my stuff, which doesn't get delivered on the blockchain, gets delivered in real life? Where's my stuff? It's like, that's not our deal. You're on your own for that. So not good. So
So I'll put the link in for the Facebook Libra cryptocurrency.
Yeah, but that could be a big. I think Ed even admitted, crypto wise, Facebook could really do something very, very different in that regard. I mean, from get rid of all the problems with speculation. They're tying it to fiat currencies. It does have a central authority, which is Facebook, right? And the Libra Association, who has a whole bunch of folks associated with it, including Booking.com. And yes, you can probably streamline payments very efficiently. Even though Visa and MasterCard are participating, you want to get your money to the Safari Lodge, somewhere in somewhere in Kenya. Yeah, that should probably happen pretty easily without a bunch of foreign exchange fees getting layered on by, parties who really aren't taking much risk, and they are providing a service, but it's just, here's a barrier to entry that is suddenly gone because you've got, several billion people, working on the same platform. So brilliant move by Facebook. Boy, and for an organization that does not have a good, record with kind of social responsibility and security and things like that, and personal privacy, what could go wrong? Just trust them, right?
What could be wrong?
So there are lots of complexities with that, and some really bad things can happen with us. And again, I don't know. We'll just have to see if Facebook, can really step up and manage us. I don't think they've exhibited the management, capabilities to really tackle some of these things. They're getting led around to make, do things fast and break things. Work fast and break things is not good when it comes to currencies. And global trade. That's not a good thing.
Well, this leads a little bit to one of the other articles you had, which came out of HSMEI's Chief Revenue Officer Executive Roundtable that happened after Rock in Minneapolis. And that was the discussion or the presentation, I guess, from who gave the presentation? Hold on. Who was the guy that gave this?
You were there.
No, I wasn't at the roundtable.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Raul from Crescent Hotels.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyways, talking about the fact that is the industry heading towards a profit recession?
Yeah.
And
it is.
Yeah. I mean, okay, there we go. That's it. Yeah, it is because
Yep.
we're dying of a death of a thousand cuts. Our channel costs are not in our control, and our methodology of controlling channel
Loyalty
usage.
costs, reward program costs are rising faster than RevPAR.
Hmm.
Brand fees rising faster than RevPAR. Distribution rising faster than RevPAR. Labor rising faster than RevPAR. And yeah, that's that pretty much covers it. All your costs are going up faster than your revenues, so that's going to start squeezing things.
Which
And
goes again
I,
back to the point that just measuring your top line revenue and saying that you're a success being a
right,
large or small business, or that look at how look at our RevPAR. This is all the revenue we have coming in based on the amount of inventory we have, is such an
right,
archaic baseline to true
right,
business profitability, because you're not taking into account everything that happens after that. Even if you just go down to the EBITDA line, you know,
yeah,
a little farther down the trail, so to speak, you're going to have a much more accurate value proposition. And that's what boils down to. And this is the peeve I have. I'm going to go on the soapbox real quick about metrics associated with revenue management and marketing. We use metrics, KPIs, and goals that are
yeah,
unrealistic KPIs to the actual business value that they represent. If I'm walking around as a marketer and I have a 20-to-1 ROAS or 100-to-1 ROAS, I'm thinking I'm amazing, because
yeah,
basically what I'm saying is for every dollar you gave me, I returned 20 or 100 of it.
yeah,
That's not really true in the essence of, well, what did it really generate is the value proposition, not the
right,
method of generation. Not that it's not a
right.
metric to maintain, not that it's not a measurement of success on ROIs or anything, but its actual end of truth value is not as
But it
important.
needs to be net. It needs to be a net ROI with all your costs out and all your operating costs. Your how does that relate to your margins? And you start looking at it and going, oh, yeah, there's
Yeah.
not a lot left. Well, and we've finished the second quarter from the way that I approach things. And yes, normally June is the end of the second quarter, but I always look at things on a weekly basis. And if I look at the 52-week moving average for U.S. hotel occupancy, as reported by STR, something happened last week. That 52-week moving average for the first time was negative by 1/100%. It was down, but you look at it and go, oh no, that hasn't happened in a long, long, long time. Now it's not cratering. It's not just flat. It's going down. And if you look at the first quarter, you go, oh, occupancy percentage was up for the first quarter. And again, my quarters are 13 weeks. So was up 0.12%. So a little bit over a tenth of a percent for the first quarter. Second quarter was down about 1/3 of 1%. So
Mm,
again, not cratering, but it's lower occupancy. That's not good.
wavering.
And then you look at what's going on with ADR. Well, first quarter was up just under 1.2%. Second quarter was up just under 1.4%, but that's not a lot, right? I
Mm-mm.
mean, in the past, those things were, going up certainly much more rapidly. And what does that give you from a RevPAR basis? You start going, oh, first quarter RevPAR was up 1.2%. Second quarter up 1.07%. So yeah, this whole plateauing, going into a recession, very very real. I mean,
Hmm.
the slightest disruptions now send you into negative territory. So if
Hmm.
a big disruption, boy, I mean, and I was looking back over kind of year over year trends. People forget, 2009 was only 10 years ago, but boy, when you look at the changes of just what, dramatic hits were taken in terms of, the occupancies and RevPARs in 2009 versus 2008 for the full year. RevPAR in 2000, or I'm sorry, occupancy was down almost 12%. That's a huge hit. ADR was down almost 10%. So all of a sudden, your revenue per available room was down over 20% versus the previous year. That is just, you know, catastrophic, right? And then you can see things come back. You go, oh, well, in 2010, okay, you dug yourself into a pit. And then, you know, what happened then? Well, then you had like 5.5%. And hey, then it went up 8, and then it went up 7.7, and then it went up 5.5, a little bit of a dip in 2013, not as fast growth. Went back up in 2015 to 8%, and then all of a sudden you go 6%. And now, since 2016, and I wrote a blog, I'll do it, Tim Peter, I wrote a blog post on it in 2016 saying we hit the plateau. Yeah, it was up. It's been up between 3.1 and 3.6% every year for RevPAR growth, you know, 2016, 17, 18, and now 2019, it's 1.1. So that is not a good scenario. This is really historically, or actually 2007, the interesting thing was before the global financial crisis, or actually in 2008, it